It stands out a lot in baseball when a pitcher shows emotion on the mound. We've become more accepting in baseball of seeing pitchers get really animated on the field during their play. However, in MLB, that hasn't still fully broken in yet. You see it more than ever before, yes, but I wouldn't say it's that frequent compared to a bat flip or home run celebration. So how would you take it if I told you that there was a pitcher who more or less hit a Fortnite emote after striking guys out 25 years ago in Major League Baseball, when it was so much more normalized for guys to charge the mound or throw baseballs at other dudes' heads for showing emotion? We had a guy who was smoothly sliding around the mound whenever he'd punch guys out, without fail, sometimes even pointing a finger gun at the opponent and firing it. He was so committed to the bit out here. Meet Jose Lima. And to quote Lima himself for how he'd describe the days he'd be pitching, it's Lima time. What we're gonna do here today is showcase the aura of the one-of-a-kind, fun-loving pitcher that carved himself out as one of the most fun players of his generation. Maybe the entire history of MLB. You guys need to get an understanding of just how larger than life and unique Jose Lima, the human and the baseball player, are.
But it's one thing I love more than getting my pitch over the plate. And that is getting over this plate in Casa Ole.
Or how small his best friend on the mound was. Quote, "My midget, the little me, buried in his glove." His words, not mine. That friend was about this big. Nobody in the world knew he was there except Jose. What most impressed me about Lima is how unflinching he was about making sure his antics came through, regardless of the context of the baseball around him. Here, let me show you this game of him carving through the Cubs lineup and never failing to hit his personal dance move after every last strikeout.
That'll be Freddie Garcia against Doug Johns. Here's the pitch, swing and a miss. Porter strikes out. Lima gets number 5.
After the game, he told the media, "I told you it was gonna be Lima time. And it's Lima time, baby." Which, I love that energy. Times were good here, considering this was a game where he picked up his 20th win of the 1999 season. A year in which he was an all-star, and of course, showed his stuff for the world to see in the all-star game. On his good days or his bad days, you would still just find him in a happy, celebratory, overall just Jose Lima-ish mood. When he shoves against the Yankees, he gets back on the team plane, downs as many drinks as he can, and shares as much love with himself and his teammates as he can. But when he had a bad day, he understood. Teammates might never tell the difference, and he was still unapologetically himself. It definitely says a lot about how you handle failure if you're given more than 30 starts in a season where your ERA was over 6, twice, for 2 different teams. When he first arrives at spring training on a minor league contract after having a 6.99 ERA in the season before and described as a long shot to make that new team, he does so in a fedora, silver 3-piece suit, earrings that are described by the New York Times as the size of a bottle cap, and immediately bragged to the media that he had over 2,000 suits in his closet and never wore the same one twice. The Mets pitching coach made sure to say that when Lima came in that he considered all this a good thing, because he was just such an overwhelmingly positive dude. Being called Dominican Crocodile Dundee is not an insult at all in this context. He got absolutely tattooed in his MLB debut, and all he could think about was how proud his family was going to be that he was a big leaguer, not at all sulking in his bad day. Typically, being flashy on the field gives the impression of arrogance and/or the perception that you're a diva who sulks when things go wrong. But Lima completely understood that baseball is a game of unavoidable failure.
Oh! He dropped it like a stupid idiot!
Bad days did not affect his mood in the slightest as a competitor, teammate, or speaker to the media. And you just don't see much of that. Players around the league were torn on it. One opponent called his antics, quote, "the weakest act in baseball," while another said that it was just him being himself and it shouldn't bother anyone because he wasn't hurting anyone. His teammates generally loved him, because plenty understood that all this came from genuine passion and love for being a baseball player. This man lived by the never work a day in your life mantra. Lima's image as a baseball player was a lot of things. Inauthentic was not one of them. I also really respect how the circumstances of the baseball he was playing seemed to not influence his behavior in the slightest. Regular season baseball? It's Lima time. Man, seeing this on like a May 12th baseball game in 1998, going back to his native Dominican Republic for off-season winter ball, it's Lima time.
Todo con los problemas físicos de Timoniel Pérez. No había muchas dudas de que si Castro fildeaba limpio.
Playing in Korea after MLB passed him by, you know what time it is. Or, most notably, the playoffs. Do I even have to say it? This is the perfect moment to talk about Lima's finest hour. 2004 NLDS Game 3. In his one and only season as an LA Dodger, Lima pitched a complete game shutout in his first and only playoff game with them. He more than let it loose, both on the mound itself and the more his success just kept coming that day. This should show you that Lima had plenty of good in him on the mound. He finished 4th in National League Cy Young voting as a 20-game winning All-Star for Houston in 1999, as touched on earlier. He led the National League in strikeout to walk ratio in 1998. It's usually a signal that you have both the potential to be good or are just an incredibly well-liked or respected person when teams still trot you out there in a season where you break the NL record for most home runs given up in a year. As a wise man once said, you have to be really good first to get to be really bad. Oh, and he also led all 2004 Dodgers pitchers in headlines generated about STD scandals. What he also led pitchers in on the teams he played for was time singing the national anthem before games. Yeah, you know this thing? It's usually done by, like, the kid from Stranger Things or Travis Kelce's significant other. You sometimes get to see Jose Lima sing the national anthem in uniform before games. More than once, and with multiple different teams. And on May 13th, 2004, he sung the national anthem for the Dodgers, then came in to pitch in the game in relief in the second inning, and pitched 5 2/3 scoreless innings. This guy's antics did in fact translate to music too. Before games, you can find him in his underwear singing his favorite songs playing on a CD player. He knew every single word of the songs too. That's because he wrote them and performed them.
You listen to your own music?
Yeah, bro was blasting and singing along to his own songs in the clubhouse before games. That is some dude right there. This is a man who released multiple merengue albums and once had a teammate use some of his music as their walk-up song. Still having the CD decades later with the words Lima Time on the front. Because, of course.
Casa ole, fresh today, ole, every day. Casa ole, ole.
On the field, you know the flash was there, in style. But remembering the time period he pitched, he also mixed up his appearance a lot. Lima only pitched in 4 games as a New York Met, and I legitimately think he changed up his physical appearance for all of them. Remember, this is the mid-2000s by this point. Personal expression in baseball was far less widespread or visible among players. There was no such thing as social media clout yet for having a cool appearance. He was just doing this for fun. See, in this photo as a Met, he has a goatee and short bleached blonde hair. Here, the hair has really puffed out, and he shaved the goatee down into more of a mustache. Whoops, now the goatee is back, and he's morphed his hair down into braids. Now he's trimmed the hair and beard down, given up a grand slam to a pitcher, and left a big league mound for the last time, never to return again. 4 starts for the Mets, all in the spring and early summer of 2006, That was the end of his MLB career. If I've learned anything to this point about Lima, though, he probably didn't get too down in the dumps that his last big league outing was 3 innings with 5 earned runs allowed, including getting smoked by the opposing pitcher for a grand slam. He was probably just happy and grateful to be wearing a big league uniform. In the words of his agent, the transition for him out of baseball was something that excited him, and he embraced it. He very frequently returned to Dodger Stadium in retirement, sitting right behind home plate to an ovation from the Dodgers crowd. He was even committing to building a youth baseball academy and was all set to make community appearances for the team. But none of that came to be, as Jose Lima tragically passed away from a heart attack in May of 2010, less than 4 years after his final big league game. He was just 37 years old. The outpour of love that followed that was spectacular. Historic Dodgers announcer Vin Scully paid tribute to him on the Dodgers TV broadcast the next day.
Jose Lima, 37 years old, was here Friday night. He was saluted by the crowd, he took his cap off, and we were thrilled to see him. It was always Lima time.
I should remind you that he made that big of an impact on LA and its community in just 1 season as a Dodger. David Ortiz, who never played with Lima in the major leagues, paid visible tribute to him on the field and again when he won the Home Run Derby that July. It should show how beloved he really was. His antics weren't distracting. They were celebrated. Like, here's a great case-in-point example of the impact he made on people. You know that agent I told you about a minute ago that he had who was talking about his retirement plans? That same guy was the general manager who signed him to the Dodgers in 2004. His former GM became his agent. I have never seen that before in any sport. Everyone made sure to remember how much they loved him. Teammates and opponents in baseball, the fans he so often made time to sign autographs for and spend time with, and those who pass along stories of him to his son, Jose Lima Jr., years after his passing. Use Jose Lima as a fun lesson. The flashiest players on the field aren't always the most pretentious divas. Sometimes they're fun, genuine, mostly harmless people who are unapologetically themselves. And when he took the mound every 5th day, you most definitely know what time it was.